Good afternoon, and thank you all for standing by. For the duration of today's conference, all participants' lines are on a listen-only mode until the question-and-answer session. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Paul Charland. Thank you, sir. You may begin.
Thanks, Holly. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate you all joining us today, and I appreciate you sticking with us through some of our technical challenges. We're excited about today's webinar, and I'll just a little bit about PRI background for anybody who's not familiar with, and then we'll get started. So just for everybody's information, PRI is a collaboration of more than 30 conservation organizations working together to develop and engage community of practice to overcome uncertainties throughout the phases of prairie reconstruction, so that all prairie reconstructions are biologically diverse, ecologically functional, resist invasion by non-native plants, and are cost-effective to manage. We do that by entering site, planting, and management data into a specially designed database, data analysis through standardized monitoring protocol, and information sharing. And we deliver our results through a variety of formats, including webinars, field days, scientific journals, and a website. Again, as I said, today's webinar is hosted by Emily Helms. Emily is a range management specialist with USDA-NRCS in South Dakota, and she's going to tell us about some apps to help make your work life easier. And let me turn it over to Emily, and we'll get started.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I have a few apps that I'm going to show you today that I found are pretty useful out in the field for identifying plants, figuring out soils information, and also maybe doing some monitoring. So with that, I'll just get started. So everyone likes to say there's an app for that. And like I said, today we're going to cover some ID apps for plants as well as some animals and birds. And then I have one monitoring app that I think is quite useful, and then some soils information, because I work for NRCS. We have to talk about soils. I hope that's okay with you guys. So the first app I want to show you is called South Dakota Wildflowers. This app is free. It's available through the App Store as well as Google Play. And this app is used to identify flowers, grasses, shrubs, trees, cactus, ferns, moss, and lichen. I use it mostly for flowers. It's not as great for identifying grasses, and I haven't used it much for any of the other types of plants. There's also versions for all of the different states. I looked for specifically, they have one for North Dakota, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Colorado, and Illinois, but I think they're available for all states. So you can just search for your specific state, just go like North Dakota Wildflower, and it should be available. So how this app works. This is the main screen that you'll get when you open and download the app. It will give you a total number of plants available for that state. So in South Dakota, they have 1,920 plants available. And then based on what characteristics for those plants that you want to ID, it'll pare down that list of plants. So like in this example, you can select like a wildflower or other forbs. You can see here. And then you can decide what flower color that you're looking at. So maybe you have a yellow flower, and then determine the number of petals on that flower, and maybe you look at it and decide there's 3, and so that narrows down the list of plants to 2. So then you click on that Show 2 Plants button at the top in green, and then after that it'll give you a list of plants that fit those parameters. So maybe you realize that you weren't correct in how you answered that, so then you just go and click that back button up at the top, and it'll take you back to your original choices, and you can change them. So like maybe I accidentally miscounted and there were 5 petals, and I decided that it's about 1.5 inches in width. So then again, you can go back to that show 3 plants at the top, and it'll give you the plants that meet those parameters. Then you can click on each of those plants to get more information. So if we click on yellow marsh marigold, for instance, it'll give you multiple photos of that plant from different places around the internet. And then you can click on info at the top here, and that will give you that plant's common name, its scientific name. And then if you scroll down in the app, it will show you more information about the plant, like what you can use to find that plant on the first screen, also a plant status map, and where you can find that plant. Then if you click on the map at the top here, it'll give you a map of all the instances where that plant was found. And I think this is based on the app. All those little green or blue dots are where it's been found in South Dakota and surrounding areas. And you can scroll down in the app again, and it'll give you a plot of showing when during the year and what elevations that plant has been found at, which is kind of cool. So you can gauge, like, maybe it's June and you're seeing this plant in August. Maybe you don't have the right plant after all. Then you can also use the description, and that will give you more information on the specifics of what that plant, how to identify that plant, and all of the fancy terms used to describe the plant itself. Then the last thing is the links, and these are specific links to that plant on all of these different websites, so you can find out more information if you need to. I really like this app because if you want to use it without any cellular service, you can like turn off your data for this app, and it's available out in the field where you don't have cell service. The only part that isn't available are these links. You can't, if you don't have any cell service, then you might not be able to go to the internet. But otherwise, the rest of the information is all available within the app. So I find that really useful, especially working in remote places in South Dakota. Okay. The next app that I like is the one called ID Weeds. It comes out of the University of Missouri Extension, so it's also a free app, and it's mostly for identifying weedy species, like something that you might find in a new planting that you might want to identify. And this one is also available on Google Play and in the App Store. So how this app works is pretty similar to the Wildflowers app, where this is the main screen that you'll come to when you open the app, and you can ID your weeds by plant features with this button here. So once you click that, then it'll give you a starting point of either pick grass or broadleaf, and then it gives you a bunch of different ways to identify the grass that you're trying to identify. So like select the habitat, there's a whole list of different places that you can say you're in, and then once you have that selected, you push done, and then you can select the life cycle. So I think it gives you summer annual, winter annual, or other. You can select the leaf type and so on and so forth, go down the list. And if you don't have all this information, you don't have to fill it in. You can just leave them blank. And this is more of the characteristics you can select, like arrangement, stem type, seed head, and then root system. And once you have all of the things you're sure about for that plant, you can click identify, and it'll give you a list of all of the different weeds that are loaded into this app that meet those characteristics. And you can scroll through and decide which one you are at. And if you want to add more information, you can use this back button, and it saves all of your information that you added prior. and then then you can add more. Or you can decide to change up. If you decide you know what it is, you can go back and click broadleaf, and then these are all of the different categories that you can select to help narrow down the list for broadleafs as well. So we have leaf arrangement, leaf characteristics, lobe type, leaf shape, margins, petioles, hair, and flower color, growth habit. Like, they have everything here. It's very, very user-friendly, I think. And then if you're wanting to go back out of the app itself, you can use the little 3 bars in the top right-hand corner, and it'll give you a home button, so that will take you back to the home screen. And other ways you can search for plants within this app, you can use the search function and just type in the plant you're looking for. Maybe you want to prove to someone that you're looking at lamb's quarters, so you can type that in, push search, and then it'll come up with things that match that lamb's quarters name. And each species has multiple pictures loaded into the app, and then it also has a description with different information about like the seedlings, leaves, identifying characteristics, and then you can go back again. And the other thing you can do is view the full list, which is sorted alphabetically, which can be handy. And you can, at the top, there's a way to sort the list alphabetically, so you can go straight to like the F's or the G's or the R's. So I think it's kind of a handy thing if you're not up on all the weeds in your local area. Like whenever I move to a new place, I sometimes have to learn the new weedy species. So this is a pretty handy one for sure. The next app I will show you it's called PlantSnap, kind of like Snapchat, but PlantSnap. This one is free for up to 10 results a day. So after you look up 10 plants, then either you have to give up or have to pay for the app itself. But if you are only doing a few a day, it can be helpful. And this one can be used to identify plants, flowers, cacti, succulents, and mushrooms. I really like this one for identifying plants that are more horticultural. Seems to be a little bit more accurate, but it can be accurate on the more native plants as well. So this one's also available on Google Play and the App Store. So this one, when you bring up the app after you've downloaded it, it will open up with the screen showing your camera. So you have to let it have access to your camera first. And then it automatically is set to auto detection. So you can just hold your phone, like focus on a plant in your viewfinder on your phone. And so like last night I took a picture of my aloe vera plant to see how this works. So I was holding my phone in front of the aloe vera, and then it started focusing on that plant and brought up this circle. And so then you just tap it inside that circle, and it'll take you to this screen where it gives you a result of what the app thinks that plant might be. And then this is the major result that they think it is, but then they give you other options if you scroll down within the app. So they gave me like aloe, bottle brush aloe, and red aloe. And since it's a free app, there's a lot of ads within it. So that just comes with free apps sometimes. You can scroll back up, and if you want to learn more about this plant, you just click on the plant, that picture, and it'll bring up more pictures. If you scroll right or left on the picture, it'll have more pictures that you can look at to decide if that's your plant or not. And then if you scroll down, it'll give you a description and more information about the plant, like kingdom, class, order, family, genus. Then you can use the close button to get out of that. And then if you aren't seeing what you're expecting, you can click on this More Options button, and this will bring up a screen that allows you to suggest a name or send the image to be identified, so like a botanist, and then there's some other options for you too. So if you do think this is your plant, you can click the Save button, and it'll save that plant to your collection so that you can come back to it later. If you are like, oh, what was that plant? It's already in your collection. And so in order to see that, you click on More, and then it'll give you your collection of plants that you've saved. And then another way that you can look up plants is, or you use the little snap button to go back to this main screen. And then another way you can look up plants is if you have already taken a picture of the plant on your phone, you can use this little, it's like a picture button. You click on that, and then it'll go to your photo albums. You have to allow it access to your photo album, good or bad. And then you search for the photo that you want to add in, and then it'll ask you to crop it into this little box. So this is one I had on my phone. And then once you got it where you want it, you click Done, and then it'll give you results. And sometimes it's not very accurate. Like this plant, we decided after the fact it got sprayed. We're pretty sure it's a giant ragweed that got sprayed. So it's kind of an odd looking plant. But that's kind of how it works. And then the last thing you can do that I can recommend to do is use the search tool, and you can search for plants by common name or scientific name, and it has a pretty good list of plants within it. I haven't really used the feed or the explore functions in this app that much, so they're there. I just am not as social media on this app as others. The next app I'm going to talk to you about is iNaturalist. I really like this one. The more I dig into it, the more it's a pretty cool app. This is a free app. You can use it to identify not just plants, but birds, animals, and bugs as well. It's available on Google Play and the App Store, which is pretty cool. And there's also a website that goes along with this. It's just inaturalist.org. And this was created by National Geographic, I think. So how does that work? National Geographic. Once you download the app, this is the first screen you'll get. So you just have to swipe through all of these little screens. It kind of helps you see what you can do with the app. And then it'll bring you to this login screen where you can sign up. And if you sign up, then all of the things you do are saved. Or you can skip through that with the skip button, and it'll bring you to this screen right here. And if you don't sign in ever, it won't be able to save anything. So I signed in, and this was my one observation that I had saved within the app, just because I wasn't sure what kind of woodpecker it was at the time. So this one is really cool. I like the Explore feature. So we click on this Explore feature down in the bottom, and it'll take you to a map of where you're at in the area, and you have to allow it to see your location. And this app is really nice because you can just allow it once to use your location. If you don't like that feature to always be on, you can always just click allow once, which I like to do. And this is all of the instances of different plants or animals or bugs that people have saved and shown to the iNaturalist world. And so the blue are birds, the red are bugs, and the green markers are plants. So if you click on one of those little markers within the app, then it'll bring up what that was. Somebody took a picture of a yellow-headed blackbird and put it up there, and then that gives people a chance to help people identify. If people are like, I don't know what this plant is, then they can put it out to the world and people can help them identify it. Or if they know what it is, then people can say they can agree with that as well. So then you can go back out of this and go back to your observe button if you want to actually start trying to identify plants or observing plants. So this brings up a camera screen similar to the plant snap, and you're given the option of just taking a picture of a plant, or you can go through your photo album and find plants that you've already taken pictures of. My phone is full of pictures of plants, so you can use that to help identify plants. Maybe that you saw out in the field but didn't have enough time to ID. You can take pictures and then try to ID them through the app later. So once you click the photo album button, it again asks you to allow them to use your photo album, and then you can find the picture of the plant that you want to identify. So I picked this one right here, and then you just click next, and then you can also add in multiple pictures if you want, if you took multiple pictures of that plant. And then you can click on what did you see to view suggestions of that plant. And in order to see more information about what species it might be, you click on the little eye button. And this will give you multiple pictures of the plant. It gives you the description of the plant, and it also will give where it's been seen through the app. So then you can go back, and if you're pretty sure it's this Rocky Mountain bee plant, then you click on that, and it'll put it as this is what you think it is. And then the next line down, you can add a comment of where it was located. So this was a planted species in some pasture that was going over a pipeline. And then the app will use the date that that picture was taken and put it in for you. And then you can add a location. So once you click on that location, you can zoom into the exact location where you found that plant and put a little marker about where it was at. And then you can decide if it was captive or cultivated and add it to a project, which I will talk about in a few minutes. And then after you're done with that, you can click share, and it'll add it to your list of plants or animals that you've seen, and it'll allow other people to see that plant and comment on it and agree with you that it is Rocky Mountain bee plant, or disagree and say, hey, actually it's this. So like with this red-headed woodpecker that I put up about 8 months ago, if you click on that one, there's a couple of different options. This little comment button shows that this user, he agreed with me and said that, yeah, that's the red-headed woodpecker. So the other feature that I think is really cool about this app, you find in the more section. You click on that, and there's these things called projects and guides. So a project is something that you build on the iNaturalist website, and these are different things that people put together. Maybe they want some citizen science going on to help identify what species are in a certain area. So like nearby to me, there's the Dakota Nature Park Biological Survey. So this is in Brookings, South Dakota. There's tons of different birds that they've found in that area and plants. And it's pretty cool. And then people can go in and say, yes, this is that plant, or no, it's not. So I think it'd be a cool way to build a project, and maybe you're trying to do a survey somewhere, and you have multiple people taking survey results. You can just build this project, and then everyone can add their information into the project via this app, and then you have a full plant list or a full species list, which is, I think it could be really useful if you take the time to figure it all out. And then the guides part is something that you can build for certain areas. So in Minnesota, they have tons of guides, and once you click on it, it'll give you just a list of plants that are maybe in that area, or like the Minnesota native bee nesting plant material. Just gives a list of all of the native flowers that are good for bees. So it's very, very useful, and I think it's a good way to connect people who aren't in science or aren't doing this day to day and kind of get them in and talking about it and doing things and being interested in plants like we are. So the next one, I'm sure a lot of you have used this one, or if you haven't, I really like this app. I am an aspiring birder. Like, I'm trying. I don't know a lot of them, but every year I learn a few more. So this app is Merlin Bird ID. It's by Cornell, and it's a free app. You can use it to identify a lot of different birds. The only drawback to it is that you have to add what they call bird packs. So you download the app itself, and then you have to go into the app and download more things. So you download the bird packs by clicking on the three bars in the top left, and it'll bring open this menu. And then there's bird packs that you can select. And there's tons of bird packs like across the United States and the world. So you can look at all of them, or you can look at the recommended ones. So this is for Lake Norden and where I live. So it was looking in the Midwest. And then you can download that specific area. So then it'll give you all the birds that occur in that area. And you can download multiple bird packs. It just takes some time to download. That's the only drawback there. So then how this works, you can just, once you have your bird pack downloaded, then you can start your bird ID. And you just click on that Start Bird ID, and it asks you 5 different things. First is, where did you see the bird? And then you can give it like your current location, or you can map it. And then it also saves some of your if you've done a lot of IDing in certain areas, it'll save those frequent locations. And then you can select how you want to show them where you saw the bird, and then it'll move you on to when you saw the bird. So you can go back in time or forward, and it'll give you a size, so if it's like a goose size or larger, and then what were the colors. You can select up to 3, which is pretty helpful sometimes. And then what was the bird doing, like all those different options. So I was trying to get to a Canada goose was my goal here. And then it'll create a list of the possible birds based on those different characteristics you gave it. And then it'll give a total list of all the birds that match those things. So like bald eagles and Canada goose down here. And then you also have this option to use the list button. So there's detail and then list. I like the list because then you can see more at once. So this is the list view, and you can see all of the birds that match what I put in. And then if you want to look more into it, you just click on that bird name, and it'll give you pictures and some kind of a description. And then it also gives you sounds of the bird, which I think is kind of useful because I'm trying to learn the bird sounds. So this app is really helpful for that. Bird calls, that's what I should say. And then you can also see a map of where the bird is located during certain parts of the year. So then you can click, yes, this is my bird, or, and it'll just kind of take you back to the beginning. And you start over. I haven't seen where this app saves your bird ID, but it might. I'm not sure. There's also this photo ID option, but that's another thing you have to download, and I haven't been able to get it to download. So that's kind of a drawback on this one. Like every time my phone goes, it decides to go to sleep, then it stops downloading. So I haven't been able to keep my phone awake long enough for it to download. Then there's another option of exploring birds. So it gives you the whole list of all of your installed birds, and you can look at birds based on their size. So if it's a waterfowl or ducks or anything like that. So I like this app. I like to play with it in the summertime when I'm trying to determine what kind of birds are out there. So the next app is called GrassMap. This is a free app. This is a monitoring app. It was created by the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And this app is more it was built for a rancher to monitor their grazing land. So some of the features might not be useful, but I really like the picture taking capability that it gives you. So this app this is the main screen that you get when you download it. And so you can add a new, they call them, so you just want to, the first thing you do is click add new, and then you enter a transect name. So this would be the location of where you're taking the pictures. And so once you add that transect, then it'll bring up a picture, a way to take a picture. So then they ask you to take a picture of a photo looking out, and you get to see our awesome copier. And then you can decide whether to keep it or you can retake it if the picture you took isn't the greatest. And it'll give you an image name, date, and the GPS coordinates, as well as the time and direction, which I think is really handy if you want to take the same picture in the same location multiple times just to see a change over time. This app I used a lot when I was doing my master's degree work, so I could take a picture in the same location to show change over time, and it's a really good visual aid. So once you hit keep, then it'll ask you to look down at your feet so you can take a photo plot point of what's happening on the ground in that same location. So it's kind of handy for showing change over time. And after you get that picture taken, it'll ask you to add plots. If you're doing a transect and you want to take multiple plots over an area, you can do that. Or you can just click done, and you just have that one picture of the landscape and of the ground saved. And then it'll ask if you're done, and you can say yes. And then the next questions are based on Nebraska, so you don't have to answer them, but you can. But I just skipped through these when I was doing this. And then you can use the albums to go back and look at those different pictures that you've taken. So you can also edit the albums in this by clicking on the edit button, and it'll bring up this screen where you can delete the albums if you don't need them anymore, or clear photos, or you can save all the pictures in that album to your camera. So you can click on this test, and every time you take a picture, it'll give you a folder within each album it gives you a folder in each album of the pictures that you took. And then when you click on each picture, you can click on the little up button, and it'll give you options to delete the photo, save it, email it, or print it, which is, I think, pretty handy. And then all of those images have that location saved on them, which is really nice when you're doing monitoring. So to go back to the main screen, there's also this maps, which shows you all of the different transects you've taken over the lifetime that you have this on your phone. So I think it can be handy to show where you've been and where you need to go. And then you can update existing. So if you want to take a picture and then go back in a week and take another picture, go back in a month and take another picture, you just click update existing, and then you click the transect that you want to do, and it has this cool overlay feature. So it kind of shows what the horizon was in the background of the picture, so you can line it up perfectly if you want, just so you have that awesome change over time pictures. And then you just go through the same, take the picture, keep it, and then take one of the ground, and then you can add plots if you want or not. So that's GrassMap. I just really like it for its location saving capabilities. And then, so in order to find those pictures, you go back to albums, and then it should have, like, once you save those pictures again, a new folder will appear. But if you take the pictures on the same day, they'll just override each other, so you have to have a date in between pictures, otherwise it won't work. Learned that the hard way. Okay, and then the last app I want to talk about is Soil Web. So this is a free app, and it's for identifying soil series and more information about soils like properties, ecological sites, drainage class, all that kind of fun stuff that goes with soils. And this is available as a web app as well as like an app on your phone. So you can use it through Safari or Google Chrome or whatever from your phone, so you don't always have to download an app. But I'll start with the actual Soil Web app and show you how to get to the website as well. So how it works, you download the app, and then you click on this Get Soil Data, and it's going to ask you for your location. But it doesn't take too long if you have good cell reception. But so once you click Get Soil Data, it'll give you the map unit that you're standing on, and you'll have the option to click Details to learn more about that map unit, like what's the farmland class, what's the ponding frequency, all those fun things. Then you can go back and click on the specific map unit component that you might be on to learn more about it. And once you click on that, the default is to open up the soil series description, and so you can scroll through that to learn more about the different soil horizons that are there. Then you can click on Details down at the bottom, and that'll give you information on soil taxonomy, soil properties, land classification, all those things. And this is all pulling out of Web Soil Survey. And then the other, if you want to see a picture of where you're standing, like kind of like on Google Maps, a picture, you click on this location button, and it'll ask you, they'll give you a Latin long and accuracy, but then the GMAP application is the web browser part, so you can open GMaps from the web, the app itself. So you can click on that, and it'll bring open your web app like Safari or Google Chrome or whatever. And then this is the screen that you'll get. So you can just click OK, and it'll show you where you're at on the landscape, and then it'll give you the lines of all the different soil map units. And then you can click on the map unit itself. You just like click with your finger in that area, and it'll bring up kind of the same information, just in a different format, like the map unit composition. And then you can click on the map unit itself, and it'll give you again the soil profile picture. You can scroll down and get the same information. And I really like this part of the web app, because when you click on the ecological site description here, it'll actually take you to the ecological site description in Edit, which is where NRCS stores all of the ecological site descriptions for across the United States. So then this will give you information on the soil and what types of plants occur there, and different information about that ecological site. So, and if you don't want to download the app, you can just save this web address in your iPhone or your in your phone, and you can use your find location from this website and use it the same way as an app without having to download one. So I really like that part about this, if you like to know more about the soils and what's going on. So those are all of the apps that I was going to cover today. These are the ones that I always have saved them on my phone and will use when I'm out in the field. And I'm sure there's tons more that I didn't cover, but these are the ones that I like the best. And I just want to open it up to questions if you have anything or comments, or if you have an app yourself that you'd like to share, go ahead. That'd be great too.
Thank you. We will now begin our question and answer session. If you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1. Please unmute your phone and record your name slowly and clearly when prompted. Your name is required to introduce your question. Again, that's star 1 if you'd like to ask a question. One moment, please.
Oh.
Paul?
So, Lisa, she said that there's a caution with iNaturalist. Specific locations of rare and protected species are not well mapped. So, use caution with that. I never even thought about that. Thank you for bringing that up. And Herb Mapper. I'm going to have to download that one too. Thank you, Lisa.
Hey, Emily, this is Paul.
Hey.
Hey, I've got a question for you. The
Sure.
grass snap looks really interesting. We've been struggling to find a way to kind of do some better monitoring within the fire program. I'm interested in maybe giving that a try. One question: is there a function to help you navigate to a point where you've taken a picture previously? Since you've got that stored?
There's not. I always just, like, when I took my pictures, I found a fence post and took them by a fence post, which isn't always the best way to do it, but
Okay.
but when you are in the app itself, it'll when you're standing there trying to take a picture, it will show you the location, like the Latin long of where you're standing, so you can get fairly close if you have the previous Latin long.
Mhm. Okay.
But it doesn't give you, like, that little marker like in Google Maps where you, like, go to the mark. It's not as GPS friendly, I guess.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
And at this time, we have no questions on the phone line, but as a reminder, please press star 1 if you'd like to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while we're waiting, Emily, thank you. That was really interesting. I'm definitely not a techno person, and I'm typically try not to clutter up my phone with too many apps. But there's a lot of neat stuff there. I really enjoyed that, and appreciate you going through those with us.
Good. I'm glad. I was hoping. So Nina said that, where did that go? The iCollector is something you can use. I haven't used that either, but that's a good thing to try. Collect. Mm-hmm.
And at this time, we have no questions on the phone line.
Uh-huh. Oh, so Nina Hill said you could use Art Collector to revisit points and store images in a geodatabase. We haven't used Art Collector that much within the NRCS, but I know it's a really handy tool to look into, and I think we're going to start using it more. So that could be something that you could use for going back to specific points too, like the grass snap, Paul.
Yeah, I've heard about it. A lot of people are using. I haven't messed with it yet. I'm not as ARC friendly yet, but yeah, that'd be something to think about. Thanks.
Yeah. Good.
Well, maybe give folks another minute, and then we'll wrap it up if people don't have any more questions.
Sounds good.
As a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question on the phone line, please press star 1.
Nina, thanks for the information about Bumblebee Watch.
Yeah, that's cool.
Especially in the areas here on the eastern, well, probably more so in the eastern area, eastern parts of the region where folks are have potential for getting rusty patch bumblebee sightings. That would be particularly helpful. But in general, building up that base, a better knowledge base about bumblebee distributions is pretty important. There's other bumblebees we're worried about as well. Thank you.
Very cool. I'm learning things too. This is cool. I like it.
And we did have a few questions come through on the audio line when you're ready for those.
Sure.
Okay, our first question comes from Charmaine. Your line is open.
Emily, I wasn't able to get on right away, and you were talking about some app before Plant Snap, maybe more than one. Do you remember? Could you just give me the name of some of the earlier ones you talked about?
Yep. I think the one you missed was called two of them. The first one was called South Dakota Wildflowers. This one is good for IDing a lot. I like it for wildflowers, but if you aren't in South Dakota, there's also there's one for every state. So like you can look up North Dakota wildflowers or Wisconsin or wherever, and there's an app for each state. And then the second one was called ID Weeds, just capital I, capital D, Weeds. And this one is you can use for identifying different weed species, like annual weeds that you might find in a new planting.
Okay, could you spell that first one?
South Dakota Wildflowers.
South Dakota Wildflowers, yep. Okay.
Yep.
And then ID Weeds. And the last one that somebody had just mentioned verbally was something Collector.
Yeah, Arc Collector is
Arc Collector.
A-R-C, Arc.
A-R-C Collector. Okay.
Arc Collector. It's kind of an Arc map app, I think, or ArcGIS map app.
I see. Great. Thanks a lot. This was really helpful.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Colleen. Your line is open.
Hi, this is Pauline, and I think my question is a little bit like what Shami's was. I was wondering if you had a list of the apps that you had presented today, and since Shami kind of got through some of those, I wondered if you have more that you use that you didn't get to, and if you did, I wondered if you could make a list available to Paul that he could distribute to our Prairie Reconstruction Initiative all users.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, we can maybe put that on the website and attach it to the archived version of the webinar when we get done.
At this time, there are no further questions on the audio line.
Okay, what do you think, Emily?
I'm good.
That was good. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. There was a lot of good information, and we had good turnout. So I appreciate you presenting that for us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for listening.
I'll let you know when we get the recording cleaned up and we post the webinar on our website.
That would be great. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for letting me talk. It was fun. I like to talk about plant things. So thank you.
Pleasure was ours. Thank you, Emily. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye.
That concludes today's conference. Thank you for participating. You may disconnect at this time.